Things you didn't know about some Foreigner hits, some of their biggest hits, with our special guest, Lou Gramm. It's impossible to think about Foreigner and not think about Lou. I know Mick Jones was the impetus for this band. Because of his health condition, he stopped touring with the band a long time ago. He couldn't even go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, so we wish him well. But Lou Gramm is the guy who sang all the hits. And here he is talking about those tunes on Rock History Music. Your first co-write on the radio with the band, Cold as Ice. Tell me that again. I hate to give you a cliche question, but did you know that this? I mean, I remember in high school, everyone sang that song. We loved that song.
Yep. I mean, we didn't know. We knew that it was infectious.
Yeah.
And that it had a certain something that was endearing about it. And it was rocky, but it was poppy too,
Yeah.
And that's just what we needed, really. And we had high hopes for it, and it did not disappoint.
Double Vision, how did that start off? I remember my reaction to Double Vision, first of all, as an album title, but as a song, I remember thinking, I don't know why I thought this. I'm going, I never would have thought of calling a song Double Vision, but man, that's because it sparks curiosity right off the bat. Tell me about that one.
Well, we were working on the music for the song Double Vision, and I was just scatting melodies over. I had no lyrics, and it was the NHL hockey playoffs. And in my vocal booth, I had a little tiny TV taped to the wall. No volume, obviously. You didn't want anything to bleed into my mic, but I could see the visual of it. And every time we'd take a 2-minute break, I turned the volume up a little bit. And it was my team, the New York Rangers, and I think they were playing Montreal Canadiens, and John Davidson was the goalie for New York, and while I was watching it, one of the Montreal guys, they weren't even playing, it was a timeout. One of the Montreal guys skated in front of him and whacked him with the back of the stick, and he went down like a ton of bricks, knocked out cold. Okay, and then there was a big fight between the two teams. And meanwhile, the trainers and the coaches and a couple of players helped John up to his skates, but he was really gone. And they basically walked him, skated him over to the sidelines, and then he went in the back room, and the second string goalie came out and played. But after that, they would give reports that John was feeling a little better. He's still dizzy, and he's experiencing
Double Vision.
And I heard when he said that, I go, that's it, and suddenly I fill my eyes with these Double Vision.
That is crazy. See,
yes.
I knew there was a good story behind that. Dirty White Boy, was that about somebody?
It was nobody I knew. It was just a conglomeration of people like that I had met,
Yeah. I remember of all the songs you guys have, that's the one I play the loudest, by the way. It's just the way it goes.
I'm not sure if you know, but that song in that album was met with a lot of disdain.
Really? Why?
In the Northeastern radio stations and in the Midwest, it was considered an obscene album cover to see a young girl in a boy's bathroom wiping her number off the wall, and by the look on her face, her look is like this, like somebody caught her,
Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah.
And then Dirty White Boy, somehow, it's about a rough and tough guy and all that stuff. But the Dirty White Boy was somehow deemed racial. It had nothing to do with race. Nothing. It was about a tough kid, a dirty white boy, And so it was banned at the big Boston, I can't remember what station, a big Boston station, and a number of stations throughout the Midwest. And there were album burnings. There were bonfires with not just the Head Games album, but if they were offended by the Head Games, they burned all the Foreigner albums. It was insane.
Well, that's, as they say,
over nothing.
Yeah. Jukebox Hero got stars in his eyes. I mean, there's so many great songs, that being one of them, about the dream of what could be, because every kid, whether they play an instrument or not, wants to be a rock star. That's part of everybody. Tell me about that one.
I was in the basement of my first home that I bought, and I had a set of drums set up there, and I had a TX 4-track tape recorder, reel to reel, down there. And I started with that beat, and the half talking, half singing, standing in the rain, and I don't know what words I was singing, but I eventually honed it down to that, and I got it to the point where it was take one guitar smash, and at that point I hit a creative brick wall. So I called Mick and I says, I think you're going to like this, Mick. Can I come over and play you something? And he says, yeah. So I went over there, and the way it started and the way I started singing and stuff, I was watching him, and I could see that he felt what I was feeling, and by the time my idea hit a brick wall, he had his guitar in his hands and picked up where I left off. And when we gotta keep it rocking, and then we worked together on that big chorus. And we, even on a little cassette player or whatever, we put down the idea. We were jumping up and down or hugging each other, and we knew that whether it was accepted or loved or ignored as a song, that the song was we thought of the highest level, and had a message that every kid could identify with.
Yeah. And it had a unique sound for Foreigner at that time.
Very unique.
Made you stare at the speakers. One of those songs, when, especially what you did in the beginning, I remember going, what? It makes you look.
Doom, 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 right?
Yeah. I want to know what love is. You were a big part of the writing of that song. How did that go down?
Mick had when I moved from Croton on Hudson to a place called Katona, which was a sweet little town. Well, it was a city actually, but it was very small. And I had a nice house with 2 acres, and it was just a beautiful place to live. And Mick bought a house in Bedford Hills, which was an exclusive part of the area. And his home was $2-3 million. It had 15 acres. It had 8 bedrooms, and as nice as my house was, he made my place look like a shack. Okay, and so he would go up. He and his family would go up there for weekends. He spent the week in the city, and on the weekends he would go north to Bedford Hills and stay at his mansion. And that's where he and I would work. It would take me less than 10 minutes to drive from my house to his house in Bedford Hills. And just like the old days, I would arrive there around dinner time. I'd have dinner with him, and we'd immediately go into a little tiny room with his equipment and his tape machines and stuff, and a mic for myself, and we would work on song ideas. And that's where he played me the intro to I Want to Know What Love Is. And on a cassette player. And after the intro, he started playing the chords of the verse. and I could hear in the background him humming a little melody, you know, and he goes, "Don't pay any attention to that." He goes, I was just fooling around, but I liked what he had put down, you know, and we started to work on the song, and he had the vision for the song, you know, because it was his idea, but I was contributing phrases and some lyrical lines and some arrangement lines. But the big thing is, when we went into the studio to record it, a friend of his, a really cool black gentleman, came in and said that he was working at an all black gospel label. And he listened to what we had recorded so far, and he says, that song needs a gospel choir. He says, it's beyond a ballad. It's ethereal. It has gospel overtones all over it, and we hadn't even thought about that. So he says, I've got a gospel choir from New Jersey on my label. He says, I'd like to send them over here, and you work on some parts with them, and just let them sing, you know. And so while Mick was in one studio, you know, a studio complex has usually 2 or 3 studios within it. So he was in one studio working with the choir. Okay, I was in another studio with another engineer singing the song by myself. Usually when I sing a song, Mick's in there. He's always noodling with my melodies or my nuances. No, try this, Lou. Try this. Try that. You know. And I was just singing my heart out. Okay, nobody to criticize or suggest anything. Just leave me alone. Let me sing, and I did. And the recording that you hear on that song, I did that by myself, just me and an engineer. And when I came back and played it for Mick, he was like, "Oh, that's nice," and then he went back to working with the choir, you know. And he never even really paid much attention to it because he was consumed with making sure the choir was right. And at that point, I helped him with it. But quietly, that lead vocal part with all the ad libs and everything became the crux of what that song was built on, including the ad libs from the choir at the end and everything like that. That was all based around the vocal that I had accomplished by myself with no input from anybody. And I thought that was a big accomplishment for me, because I usually can't sing 2 notes without him adjusting something, or try this, try that, try this, try that, you know. And it was a real interesting and exciting experience to be left alone, to my own devices, to sing a monumental song. And so the song was complete, and it sounded fantastic. And usually towards the end of an album, when all the songs are recorded, Mick and I would go into an office or something like that, and we would take little Post-it notes and write down each song and what we thought our share of the song writing should be. Now, we've been doing this since the first album, and usually we're very close. You know, he might say, we had a lot of 50-50 split songs,
Right?
A lot of them. But sometimes, you know, I would feel that he contributed more than me, and I would put down Mick 60, Lou 40. And a lot of times he would have the same thing down, you know. And we never had, if our thoughts were different, we would always split it down the middle and be happy, you know, because we were so so thrilled with our songwriting accomplishments that we had a very potent team. But I want to know what love is. When we first wrote on the post-it notes what we thought it should be, I had 60 Mick, 40 Lou. He had 80 Mick, 20 Lou. So then we scratch that off and we do it again. And I had 70 Mick, 30 Lou. You know what he had? 95 Mick, 5 Lou. Okay. I don't know why it was like he wanted us to cut my throat or something. I don't know where 95.5 came from. The song was going to be a massive hit. It turned out way past our expectations. I had what I feel is a landmark vocal on it for him that he didn't even have to be a part of. You know,
Your biggest song.
yes, and so it went from 70, 75, 25 to 95.5. And I was looking at him. It was very hurtful. I says, really? I says, what's prompting you to do this? He goes, I'm thinking about it, and that's what I think.
You had said before that it was the beginning of the end for you, eh?
Yes, it was. And I felt totally betrayed. And I says, Mick, I says, why are you even bothering with the 5? I says, I know you want the whole thing. Just take the whole thing, Mick. It'll have just your name on it. You know, the way you like it. And that was the end of that. And he took the whole thing. And with that song, he upped his publishing deal another $3 million. Okay. Because that song was so big. His publishing deal was substantial, compared to mine. Mine was very modest. And after he had 100% of I Want to Know What Love Is, that was a #1 song around the world. Mm-hmm. His publishing deal went up $3 million plus the royalties he was getting in, 100% of the royalties. And I felt ultimately betrayed and manipulated, and that what he did to me was an act of greed, 100% greed, and that he wanted all of the credit for that song. And that's exactly what he got. It was #1 around the world. People were piling accolades on him. It won him a Grammy. I mean, I sang the song. I never got a Grammy. Grammy went to Mick. I says, don't I get one too? I says, I sang the song. Does that count for anything? Apparently not.
What's your relationship with him now?
Well, I'll get to that. So that threw a wrench in the relationship. The tour was okay, but there was no camaraderie. I didn't feel any camaraderie from him. He was the guy that stabbed me in the back. So we performed and we pretended on stage, but off stage we kept our distance. There was no writing new songs in the back room. There was no playing euchre until 3 a.m. There was none of that. We were bandmates, but by contract only. And when it came time to do the next album, he played me 4 songs that were complete. Lyrics, music, melody, and arrangement. And he said to me, he says, listen to what I sang. He says, and do it verbatim like that. Melody, words, everything. He says, you don't even have to think about it. Just do it. So those songs were his 100%. I was only a little piece, just the voice of the song, nothing important. And so after that beginning to the album, when it came time to, when there was room for me to contribute, I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, I didn't want anything to do with the album.
It's kind of like it takes your heart out of it almost.
Yes, it does. And you know what the first song on that album that was written and that the band recorded? I don't want to live without you, a ballad. So there were some pretty good rock songs on there, and towards the end I did contribute a little bit. But the first single was Yesterday, which is a good song.
Mm-hmm.
Second single was I Don't Want to Live Without You. I think #1 around the world again. And again, accolades for being such a great songwriter, and the money was pouring in for him. And at that time, at the end of that, I was really bitter, and I honestly didn't want anything to do with him, because I felt he was not only betraying me, but purposely cutting me out from the inner circle. That he used me to a point, and then after he made a huge hit on his own with I Want to Know What Love Is, that he was going to do it again with I Don't Want to Live Without You. And he did do it again. And I had nothing to do with that song. And you know what? I didn't even sing that song the best way I could. I did a very slight imitation of Dean Martin. I sang that song like, I don't want to live without you. It was a put on. It wasn't really Lou Gramm singing. It was Lou Gramm pretending I was Frank or Tony.
Yeah, but you still did a really good job.
It was a good job, but if you listen closely, it was mimicked a little bit, and he never caught it, but I knew what I was doing, and after that happened and it went #1, I think the album after that, I had very few contributions, and I wouldn't even tour to support that album. I quit the band.
Mm-hmm. That'll do it. Yeah. But you came back.
Well, he and his wife, after that, and I think his 2 younger kids went on an ocean tour that went around the world. I think he was on tour on the liner for 5.5 or 6 months, with various stops at different cities and retooling and refueling and all new stuff that they brought on for food and stuff. It was a real ocean going vessel that when you think of being on one of those ships, you think a week or 10 days, and they dock and you fly home. He was gone a long time. In the time that he was gone, I wrote and recorded my first solo album with my own players.
What's your 3 favorite Foreigner songs that you co-wrote?
Jukebox Hero, Hot Blooded, and a song from the last album called White Lie.
Oh, cool.
Remember, if you want to make a donation to the channel, YouTube has been kind of a roller coaster financially for a lot of us creators. So if you want to help us out, we'd appreciate that. There's a link to PayPal at the very top of the description. You can join our Patreon. You'll get early access to our videos, or buy a t-shirt, a cap, or a coat with rock history music right there. Be part of our team that way. There's a link to all our swag in the description. And remember, comment on our videos, like them, share them on social media, and of course, subscribe and click the bell notification. I'm John Bowden. This is Rock History Music. Take care.